I'm Joe Moldover, and welcome to One Final Twist.
Today on One Final Twist, we are joined by Joe Moldover, a author that has written a couple of YA books and some clinical books, but this is his first adult novel, and it is called To the End of the Reckoning. Tell us a little bit about your book.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for having me on. And yeah, I'm really excited about the book, To the End of Reckoning. I guess it's not quite focusing there,
Yeah,
but
it's
it is my first adult novel. It's my first mystery. I've always wanted to write a mystery novel. I've always loved mysteries. And To the End of Reckoning is told by 23-year-old Lucas Moore, who is a stage actor in New York who's on the cusp of his big breakthrough when he is called home to his childhood home in the Catskills to take care of his father, Dr. Richard Moore, a very challenging character and a psychiatrist who has sustained a brain injury. And as the novel begins, Lucas and Richard are living together. Lucas is trying to take care of Richard. Richard is making it hard. They are trying to kind of figure each other out, figure out their relationship to each other. And they come across a mystery, which is the disappearance of a neighbor of one of Richard's former colleagues uh, who has been gone for a year and is presumed to be dead by suicide. But Richard has his doubts. And so they begin to untangle this disappearance, and that draws them into the adventure that is the book.
and let me say, Richard was one of the most interesting characters that I have read in a long time. Every time I picked it up, I pictured Bryan Cranston
Mm,
as Richard.
yeah,
Just he's just got that edge about him. He's very unfiltered.
yeah,
There's some really laugh out loud moment in this book when everybody's being kind of serious, and and I'm not for sure if that's his intent because of the brain injury that he has. Uh, but I work in pre-hospital care, so I have dealt with a lot of patients. I've seen the initial injury, and I've also seen the long-term effects. And Richard is very high functioning
hmm,
for a TBI, and he was just such a fun character to read, and the dynamic between him and Lucas, where Lucas ties the rope to him to keep him in the house at night. It's such a great dynamic between father and son and how they both change throughout the book.
yeah.
I don't want to give too much away. I want folks to read the book, but there's a lot of change that happens.
Yeah, yeah, I hope so. I mean, Richard was a lot of fun to write. He was a lot of fun to write. And I mean, he's brilliant. He's always been brilliant. He's still brilliant. He's had damage to the frontal lobes of his brain, so he is disinhibited. He's impulsive. He can be rigid. He can be hypersensitive. But I mean, there's also this question of like how much of that was also pre-existing.
Yeah.
I mean, like this guy was never an easy personality. So, in some ways, I think what Lucas wrestles with, which is what I think a lot of family members of people with neurological injuries wrestle with, is, sort of like what do we attribute to the injury and what is sort of do we attribute to the person's personality? Sort of where is that line?
Yeah. The And Lucas also, he's a dynamic character. He's living his dreams. He's becoming an actor. He's, like you said, he's right on the cusp of greatness, and he gets his feet pulled out from underneath him, so to speak, and he's back home, taking care of his dad. And you do see Lucas throughout the book too, how he develops and things happen at the end that make you think, well, maybe that's what needed to happen.
Yeah, Yeah, I think so. I mean, Lucas, he's had a difficult relationship with his dad, and the two of them have never quite figured each other out and connected. And, his dad's a doctor, his mom was a lawyer. Lucas struggled in school, but the one thing he had was acting. He loved being on stage, and he has spent 5 years living in poverty in New York, trying to make it as an actor. And he gets cast as Stanley Kowalski in a revival of Streetcar Named Desire, like the part that made Marlon Brando one of the great male parts of the American stage.
Yeah.
And on the cusp of breaking through, as you say, it is all yanked out from underneath him because there's nobody else to take care of his dad. And he has to give up all of these dreams and go home. And to add insult to injury, his understudy takes over the role and is this huge success. And so, I mean, Lucas is just constantly wrestling with this, his lost dreams and just kind of this question of, like, what do you owe family? Like what should we sacrifice for family? What do we owe to our parents when they start to become frail? And so I mean, yeah, and he's wrestling with that throughout the book, and I think that he matures and he grows as he kind of figures that out.
Tell us a little bit about, we'll get back to the end of the reckoning here shortly. Tell us a little bit about your YA books. I like a good YA novel. Can you tell us a little bit about them?
Yeah, I've published two YA novels. They're both sort of contemporary, realistic YA novels, sort of like John Green type of novels.
Okay.
The first was called Every Moment After, and the second was called Just Until. And they're both about tough topics. Every Moment After was about the aftermath of a school shooting. It is about the survivors of a school shooting 10 years later as they are graduating from high school. And so this was an elementary school shooting. These kids are now 18, they're graduating, and the book takes place that summer as they're trying to figure out, how do I leave this trauma behind? How do I go on with my life? Um, Justin Till is about kids in the foster care system. It's about a young woman who winds up being responsible for her nephews after her sister is no longer able to take care of them. And kind of like Lucas, she is wrestling with this choice between her own dreams and what she owes her family, and trying to take care of these two kids who have very complicated needs.
Mm.
So, these are fairly sort of gritty, realistic
Yeah.
YA books. Um, One thing I love about YA is writing in a young voice,
Mm.
being very sort of voicey and sort of
Mm.
and that's something I sort of tried to bring to this. This is a first person novel, and I think Lucas's voice may be a little sort of YA-ish.
It didn't come over YA-ish to me.
Yeah.
Maybe a little at the beginning, a little self-centered, sort of,
Mhm.
but as the story goes on, he does mature and things do happen.
Yeah.
Um, are you more of a plotter or a pantser? Do you write out? Do you plan out the whole story, or do you just start writing and Katie bar the door?
I sort of start out pantsing. I, usually sort of find a voice. I find a voice. I find oftentimes an image that I like. So, I mean, you mentioned the way that Lucas and Richard tie themselves to each other while they sleep
Mhm.
so that Richard doesn't get up and wander off and get agitated. And so I had that image and I found Lucas's voice and I started just sort of writing and going and sort of, and then what usually happens is I get going and then I kind of have to stop and start plotting. I have to say like, okay, I have these characters, I have this voice, I have these images. Now I need to just sort of like stop and make an outline and break this down. And then I'll start writing again. So I kind of toggle back and forth, but I cannot just I need to kind of feel my way into it.
Gotcha. Yeah, the way you describe the school, because there's an aspect of the school in there, how that a lot of small town schools are like that. They're falling apart. They're disrepair. I thought you conveyed that very well in the book. When you do your research, even fiction requires research. Was there anything you ever came across that just kind of shocked you that you didn't realize was fact?
Oh gosh, that's a great question. I mean, I had some background in brain injury just by virtue of my day job as a psychologist, but it's not what I do day to day. And, just something that is sort of perpetually sort of surprising and interesting to me when I delve into it is, and I mean, you may have some insight into this from, it sounds like your work, is the way neurological injuries and have really challenging cognitive effects. And so much of their knowledge, retain so much of their emotional resilience. And the effects of these injuries are just, sort of just constantly interesting to me.
Yeah. When we're talking about, Misty, you introduced her at the memorial for Jason. And she's kind of not a black sheep of the family, but she's kind of detached. And her and Jason kind of bond, and then they all kind of, she's concerned. She doesn't think, I'm not giving too much away, but at the beginning, she thinks that Jason's disappearance is not a disappearance, that there's something more to it. And Jason or Lucas and Misty bond, throughout the book too, and then things happen the way they happen, and their relationship it grows along with the maturity of how Lucas matures, and she gets. I think she makes Lucas more invested in Jason's disappearance because she's his brother.
Yeah, yeah,
The and also Mancini. He to me, he's a side character,
yeah.
but he was great. Is there could there be a book with Mancini as the lead possibly?
Well, I mean a couple of things. I mean, yeah, and I mean sort of fingers crossed I'm working on a sequel.
Okay.
And part of my goal, and I would love for this, honestly, I would love for this to be a series if we're
Yeah.
able to do it. And part of my goal would be to bring Dr. Mancini, who is this sort of irritable pathologist, sort of toiling away in the morgue, in the bowels of the hospital.
Yeah.
To make him a more central character because I love him and I think he's so interesting. And also, if you want to have multiple murders in a series, if you want bodies to keep turning up,
Yeah.
it really helps to have a pathologist involved.
Yes. It
So
does.
he's a fun character and he's also really handy. Um, Misty, I loved writing Misty. I mean, the most important thing about Misty is that she is Lucas's ex.
Yeah.
So they dated in high school and now and they were both actors. And then he kind of went off to sort of try to make it on the New York stage, and she went to Yale Drama School. So she kind of took the high road while he was waiting tables and sleeping on friends' couches. And now, 5 years later, they've come back together. And Richard really wants to solve this mystery. Misty really wants to solve this mystery because, as you say, it's her brother who's missing. Lucas is mostly interested in Misty. And
Yeah.
and I mean that's his real that's probably what's more motivating for him. And he's also hoping that if his dad can kind of get focused on this and do this and kind of pull himself together, then maybe he'll kind of progress in his rehabilitation and Lucas will be able to kind of leave and go back to New York. So, Lucas has his own agenda. But yeah, that's part of what makes it interesting.
Yeah, that I mean, and in this story, I mean, it's small town mystery. You've got local corruption. You've got, it's just there's a little romance in it. You really check off a bunch of boxes with this story. I think you did a really, really good job. I haven't published my review yet, but it will obviously be a very raving review
Thank
of the story. And what are you reading now?
Oh gosh. Oh, people ask me that question and I'm always sort of unprepared for it. There was a book that came out a year, maybe 7, 8, 9 years ago called My Absolute Darling.
Hmm.
by a writer named Gabriel Talent. And that was just, I thought that was a fantastic book. Very exciting, tough subject, just, very exciting, well-written book. And Gabriel Talent has just finally come out with his next book. It is called Crux, Crux.
Uh,
And
oh yeah.
it's a coming of age story. It's about rock climbing. It's about two kids who are trying to get out of poverty. It's very exciting, and so I'm really enjoying that right now.
Okay. If you were to be stranded on a desert island and you could
Mm.
have one book with you, and you may have already answered that, and an album, one album, what would you have?
The album's easy because I'm from New Jersey, so it would very obviously be the greatest album of all time, which is Born to Run by Bruce Springsteen.
Uh,
So, I mean, that's just like not up for debate. Greatest rock album ever recorded. So Born to Run would be it. Yeah, book. No, it wouldn't be Crux. When I was a kid, my dad read me a series of fantasy novels called The Chronicles of Prydain. It's by Lloyd Alexander, an American fantasy, and it is so it's 5 books, but the last book, The High King, is just spectacular. And I have read that series so many times. I read it to my own kids. And it sort of shaped me in that way that a book that you encounter when you're a child can shape you.
mhm.
It's high fantasy, kings and dragons and battles and magic. And I just sort of come back to it again and again. And it's amazing how that has sort of shaped my personality.
Yeah.
So if I could just take one book, I'd probably take The High King by Lloyd Alexander, which
Okay.
is the capstone of that series.
If our viewers and listeners want to connect with you on social media, which of the apps are you on, and what is your handle?
Yeah, I'm mostly on Instagram. I do also have a Facebook page. On both of them, it's at Joseph Moldover Publishing. So pretty easy to find. I probably spend mostly I'm on Instagram, and
Okay.
when I have events and things like that, I'm putting it up on Instagram. So
Okay.
Instagram's a good place to find me at Joseph Moldover Publishing. Also, josephmoldover.com is my website.
Okay. If people want to get signed copies when the book comes out on April the 21st, where can they get those?
Well, there are going to be, you can buy through Mysterious Bookshop
Hmm.
in New York City and Tribeca, which is a fantastic mystery bookstore, and they are going to have signed copies of my book. I believe there will also be signed copies at the Poison Pen in Scottsdale,
Okay.
Arizona, which is a huge mystery bookstore that does national business. So, and then the third I can point you to is my local independent bookstore, which is Wellesley Books in Wellesley, Massachusetts. And I am in there all the time signing books.
Uh,
Stores can get you a signed copy.
okay. Are you going to do a book tour with this book?
Yeah, I'm gonna be at Mysterious Bookshop on April 21st,
Okay.
on launch day. I'm doing a talk. I'm gonna be out at Poison Pen in Scottsdale on the 29th. I'm gonna be at Wellesley Books on the 30th. So those are sort of my three main stops. I'm also going to be doing some public libraries, which I love doing. Oh, I'm going to be at a couple of different public libraries through the summer.
Okay.
So anybody, so people can check out the Instagram or the website if they want to,
Okay.
keep up to date and try to catch me.
What is next for you? You kind of hinted towards it. What's next after this book?
Well, I mean, as I said, I mean, I'm trying to do a sequel. I would really, really, the person whose career I would sort of like to emulate, Scott.
Uh-huh.
I would love to kind of try to copy William Kent Kruger, and
Uh,
I mean, who wouldn't, right? But
yeah.
I mean, he sort of has this like long-running series that everybody loves, and then once in a while he'll just pop up with a standalone that like wins
Yeah.
the Edgar.
Yeah.
So I would love to have Richard and Lucas Moore coming back in a series, go on for 20 books.
Yeah.
And then I'm trying to publish a third YA. I love the YA.
Yeah.
And so I'm still doing that. And so I'm trying to put another YA out into the world.
Yeah, I did a little snooping around your website. I saw where William Kent Kruger he sang your praises about this book, and
Yeah.
I totally agree with him. I mean it's very, very, very good.
Thank you.
Is there anything that I didn't ask you about that you would like to have included in our chat?
No, I mean it's been a great conversation. I mean, I think the only thing that I always say whenever anybody talks to me about writing and getting novels done and stuff like that is that it doesn't happen alone, and none of it happens without my wonderful wife Leah, who supports me and reads my work and edits me and puts me back together when I fall apart. So much love to her. So that's just my only other comment.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining me. Thanks to the folks at the Mysterious Press that arranged for us to get together today. Thank you again to Joseph Moldover. His new book, The End of the Reckoning. It's a long there you go. Oh, you've got a hardback. I've just got the art paperback.
I just got the
I don't
hardbacks,
have a
yeah.
hardback yet. It will be out April the 21st. Booksellers everywhere. If you want signed copies, the Mysterious Press and Poison Pen in Scottsdale, Arizona will have those. And he'll be making several other appearances this summer. I do highly recommend this book. I read it in a day and a half, I think. So it was a lot of fun to read and good, wholesome entertainment.
Thank you.
Alrighty, thank you again for joining me, and we will talk to you later.
Thanks, Scott. Great conversation. Be
Yes,
well.
thank you.
All right.